Okay, thanks. Kelly just thought he could.
Everybody wants to hear a lesson.
It's good now.
Thanks for taking a pause. We'll kind of go back into it.
Yeah, I just restarted it.
We're getting somewhere because what we have to do is bring more people back, and we can do it. It is out there. I can see it. I saw it in Texas right away when COVID hit. Everybody that lived in the Metroplex that had any money, they moved out. So the property value in Montague County went up $3,000. And what happened right away is John Deere calls and they say, something, our books, what's going on? I said, it's all those people moving out. Everybody bought a tractor. They wanted a tractor, a lawnmower, and a few head of cattle, and now they're going to need a bull. So for one of the few times in the last 100 years, it was the reinsertion of agriculture to those areas that moved out. And it's people that are not truly ag backgrounded people like you guys. And so I think it's out there, and that's about the only place. You get to western Kansas, it's a tough road to run. There's just we don't have a lot of people out there. In agriculture, things like the McCook Farm Show, the Great Bend Farm Show, Wichita Falls, if you're in agriculture and you're selling a product or service, you've got to be there. That's your job. Embrace it. You're lucky to be in agriculture. We have some vendors that didn't want to work a Saturday. Who the hell doesn't work a Saturday? You gentlemen work on Saturdays. You feed your cattle on Saturdays. If you're in agriculture, you have to group together immediately.
You know, one of my biggest pet peeves, and I mean, it's America, and I'm all for capitalism, but these corporations and these large cattle feeders that have the AMAs and want total vertical integration, they didn't get there by being better than the farmer feeders and the small feeders. They got there by a better special deal. You know, they didn't outwork, they weren't more efficient, and their cost of production wasn't cheaper than the farmer feeders in Iowa. They got there by making a special deal with the packers, by throwing the rest of the market under the bus. So, you know, as long as we're playing the same game, if you can beat me, then that's fine. But I'm looking for a level playing field. I mean, let's play the same game with the same refs, and keep the people in business that do want to work hard, and their economy of scale may not be as big, but they're willing to do it for themselves, do it for their family. And right now they're not getting outworked, they're getting out-traded at the table by a special deal and thrown under the bus. And those are the rules that need to change. And a lot of people don't know, but we've had most of those rules that if they would have been enforced and followed the last 100 years, we wouldn't even be in this battle. You know, the packers, it was against the law for them to own cattle, and we've let them circumvent that and skirt around the rules. You know, we had price discovery rules and price reporting rules that the special deals shouldn't have been able to slip through without everybody knowing it, and none of those have been enforced by our government and the PNS.
I think you're really onto something there that, you know, I think a lot of times people don't understand that the rules and the laws already exist that would have fixed all this. We just have no enforcement whatsoever. The one that I always go back to, though, is I look through a couple different vantage points, because, you know, I'm a beef consumer at the same time as a cattle producer. And when I sell a bull to somebody, the second I put that bull on that trailer, there's something that kind of magical happens. All of a sudden, we're pulling in the same direction. You know, for me and him, we're on the same team now. His success is my success. And we have that same relationship with people we don't know that are beef consumers. You know, they go there and they put their hard-earned dollars, because we're not the only ones that work hard for a living out there. There are other people that, you know, get out there and bust it so they have their dollar bills. And we all know that, you know, hamburger is a staple in their diet, but the steaks and some of that other stuff, it's special. And, you know, the prices that those folks are paying right now, woo, we're asking a lot of them, but they're still going into their grocery store and they're putting down that money. And so consequently, I'm on the same team as that consumer. And so they are somewhat my responsibility. And then I sit back and I go, ooh, I kind of let them, I'm throwing stuff here, I kind of let them down. Because I know, and they might not know, that we're importing beef from 20 plus different countries. And I know that the cost of production in those countries, some of those folks are getting paid $1 a day. And I know that the working conditions of those laborers in some of those countries. And then I go to, I'm an animal lover, I want to be in the business I'm in. The husbandry practices in some of those countries is subpar. And you got Brazil cutting down a rainforest. I'm thinking that's probably not real great for the environment as well. And then we come back to probably the big one. And us in the cattle industry, we sometimes don't want to say what we know out loud. But you know what? There's some food safety issues in those other countries. We put that USDA stamp on stuff that we haven't looked at their processing facility in 3 or 4 years. And if you want to Google it, you can go online, because they will go into those plants and they, remember now, they know they're coming. These are not where they drop them out of a helicopter and they go sneak into these processors and look at them. They know in advance that they're coming. And then you go and read what they found while they're in there. They're not meeting our standards. Some of it's just horrible. And then it gets sold in the same meat case compared to my product. And no one gets to know where that product came from. That's morally wrong. That's reprehensible. That's insane. We have got to get these labels. And so then we go back to, well, how come beef doesn't have a label of where country it's from? Because my shirt that I have on right now does. Pure greed. There are people making billions of dollars by being able to bring in this cheap product that's a subpar product in many cases. The food safety is a little sketchy on some of this stuff. We should all be outraged. You need to be outraged. You have to start becoming mad. These are not just little issues anymore. It's incredible that we all don't rise up and go and tell our legislators, we don't tell these organizations what we want done. How's that for a rant?
Yeah, it's good, and it is what the American producer ought to be upset about, and it goes further down the line than that. We have universities and semen companies and everything else trying to help Brazil and South America get ahead of the American consumer, or American producer, sorry, and the consumer's getting defrauded at the meat case. If we could label it and have it separate, if you want to choose that because it's cheaper and not pay an American producer, then I guess that's your right. But I don't think very many people would take that right, and so the Americans losing out. And then you take a bull that you or I would raise that goes to stud. Our American customer wants to breed his heifer or cow to that bull here, get charged $15 to $25 a straw for it. We have to sign off on the international rights so they can let the Brazilian use that bull for $3. And there again, that's where the producer as the consumer of the product from the semen companies need to stand up and tell them, where's your business and who are you representing?
Right.
Why are you guys trying to help elevate another country above us? And there's a lot of those things that I don't think people understand or are aware of. If they were, they would get mad. And I guess that's why we get on our soapboxes and try to make people aware.
We keep talking about Brazil. The last I saw, we are importing 136% of the beef from last year from Brazil into this country. Brazil, the country that has had 2 cases in the last couple of months of bovine spongiform encephalopathy. We call that mad cow disease. About every other organized country in the world has banned beef from them. Atypical, it means that it just comes into being BSE. From what we know of that disease right now, the likelihood of 2 cases in a plant at the same location is about the same as you winning the lottery, stepping out of the convenience store and getting hit by lightning. something is wrong down there. We know from past experiences that they bribed their government. They've sent beef that should have been condemned into this country. And right now, today, you have no idea if you're buying beef in a grocery store whether or not it came from Brazil. That's crazy.
I think it's finally got bad enough. Didn't we just recently shut it off for a minute?
As far as I know, I don't know that we have. I know NCBA and a bunch of others have been pushing here the last little bit, but I think we're still open at the moment.
I think they were going to try to shut off the fresh product, but it's even if they do it today, it's been way too long in reacting to it. If that same stuff was done here or anything near that on your farm or ranch, you'd have been shut down a long time ago. And it's nothing but power and politics that allows it to go on.
You know, that's something that, once again, people don't probably understand is, you know, if you go into a USDA inspected processing facility in this country today, there is going to be an inspector there at the time that the animal's actually slaughtered, and at least half of the time throughout the entire processing. So, you know, a lot of these small facilities don't have the opportunity to be USDA inspected because they can't get someone there. But at the same time, in these foreign countries, we allow them to slap a USDA label on, even though they've only been inspected every 3 or 4 years. You know, there's the PRIME Act in the House right now. Senator Thomas Massey out of Kentucky has pushed forward. That would all, and very simply, what it would do is give the states the opportunity to do their own inspectors. So, you know, the state of Nebraska, where I'm sitting right now, you guys could do a state inspector, and then you could be able to sell it within your state to your grocery stores and to your restaurants. You know, some of this is very common sense legislation that should have happened forever ago, but we've got to have people come forward with those things.
And on the legislation, we've got to be more proactive at putting the right people in office. I'm not versed very well on the representation in here in Nebraska, but I'm from where Adam's from in Kansas, and I don't have a lot of good to say about our senators and them stepping up for the Kansas cattlemen.
You know, I've had the opportunity to visit with Roger Marshall, who's our senator in Kansas, and my representative, Tracy Mann. There we go. One thing that I tell everyone is I think they do have some knowledge about the issues. I think that they have been told so many times by different producers that they understand now what the problem is. But what they will not do, they will not step out and go against some of these organizations within the state. They will not go out and propose legislation or support legislation that, and I guess I hate naming, but Kansas Farm Bureau and Kansas Livestock Association, they will not step out and go out against those organizations. That's fair, I understand. You're a politician, you're a real simple creature. You want re-elected, you want money, you want power. That's easy, we got it. I understand what they want. So what we've got to do is we've got to work on these organizations. You know, that is the first step. And what I tell people is, and I understand for the average cattle producer or the average beef consumer or just someone that understands that rural America is dying, you might not want to be up here on a couch. I get that. I'm not real comfortable up here either. But what you do have is a lot of power because you know the people that you know. So who in your county is a member and is on KLA committee? Who is your representative for Kansas Farm Bureau, Nebraska Farm Bureau, Nebraska Farmers Union? Who are those people in your county? More than likely you know them. You probably go to church with them. You probably sit next to them at ball games. Those are the people I'm asking you to have a conversation with. That's where you need to start. Start with the folks that you know, the people that you do business with. Talk to your family. You know, this is not real exciting or has to be that complicated. What we need to do is build awareness at that very grassroots level.
Yeah, I agree. And people probably need to attend the meetings and have their voices heard, even if you've never been an active member. You know, the people that go to the meetings are the ones that, for the last 20 years and why where we're at, are the ones that had an avenue. And we weren't there defending our avenue.
You know, one thing I get a lot when I'm talking to my customers is I only have 5 cows. I only have 40 head of cows. I have guys tell me I only have 200 head of cows. I can't have a voice. I only have a small feed yard. Well, a couple different things there. First off, that's where everybody started. The guys that have 100,000 head of cattle on feed right now, at one time they had 1 cow on feed. And so we've got to remember that that's where you started. And then also, this is a little different industry. Guys like me, that's what I do full time. I sell bulls. Well, you know what? I'll sell you a bull if you got 5 cows. And I need those guys that have 5 cows to make my business work. One thing I found out when I started selling bulls for a year, and I don't sell as many as Steve, I only sell about 60 to 100 bulls, is you know how many customers that takes? Because if the bulls are doing what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to last a little while. They're supposed to get 6 or 7 years out of them. It takes hundreds and hundreds of customers to be successful. And so what I need is a varied group of people, a diverse group of people, and a lot of people in the cattle industry. That doesn't work when we become hogs or we become poultry. They're going to put guys like me out of business. They're going to put all the, and there's vendors back here behind the crowd here. Good luck selling a chute when there's no more cattle producers. Good luck selling feed when there's no more cattle producers. Good luck selling your insurance for drought insurance when there's no more. And if you're not understanding us, we're going out of business. People are going broke right now. There will be less cattle producers next year than there are today. And right now, we've lost 400,000 cattle producers in the last 40 years.
Yeah, it's just like what's going on in the auctions. I mean, you're selling bulls or selling calves or feeder cattle. It's not the winning bidder that makes the wheel go round. You need second, third, and fourth place, and that's what is evaporating now. Is that those people that are quitting and going out of business, and the ones that will remain there will have their way and be able to manipulate the market more so than it is today. We've been lucky that in the calves and the feeders, it has stayed a competitive market. Most of them go to a market to where they are actively bid on, but that dynamic's changing, and with the fed cattle constriction every day, it's more likely that that's going to bleed into the feeder and the calf sector, and we're not going to like the result then.
I'm going to throw some questions at you, Steve, and I apologize because I didn't throw this before, so I don't know if this is stuff you're well versed in, but what's your thought on a contract library?
If everything in the contract has to be exposed, I think a contract library would help. It's just what they have to reveal. I mean, if you have a contract library, do you also have to reveal that they're protecting your basis somehow if you're hedged? Or at the end of the year, you get a kickback on so many head or how many head delivered? If you can circumvent those kickbacks, then it's not going to do any good. If you have to if the library is truthful and you have to expose everything that you're getting in turn for sending cattle to that packer, I think it'll help. And it'd be like a bunch of 5th grade girls being mad at each other. I mean, if you figure you got a better deal than I do, it's going to upset you, and you're going to go back to pressuring them to have a better deal. The problem there is there's so few operations and have so many that they can have a free market if they're mad at each other with the packer, and the tier that we're fighting for still won't, because they're basically paying them rent so they don't have to own the feed yards and manage the feed yards and feed the cattle anymore. These AMAs and the grid and the special deals are allowing them to just pay a small amount per head and have manipulation over the 30-40% trying to stay in the free market.
What's your answer to the guy, Steve, that we know exists, that has a good contract, a good deal right now? He knows he's making money, and some of these are large feed yards. They're getting their production plus kind of contracts. What's the argument for them to become involved?
A good part of them, I don't hold malice for them for having the special deal, because they were in the situation or were faster and smarter to see this situation, and they did that out of reaction to stay in business. I've had quite a few jump me or whatever that I do business with or know that are very good friends, and some of the things you say, you're talking about us. And like I say, I know why they did that. They did it to stay in business. If we had true market transparency and all the special deals were exposed, I think those things would take care of themselves because they would get harder to trade with. The big thing there is the big unknown. You do what you have to do to stay in business, and it's turned into that it doesn't matter what that does to the rest of the market. And I don't think you can hold those people exactly at fault for that now because it is so constricted that they don't go to church and they don't sit across and they don't eat with somebody that is trying to be in the free market. We've been regionalized, and that's some of the problem with the new bill that we've thrown together, wanting to regionalize the country even more. Those farmer feeders in Iowa, and where the corporate packers and the corporate feed yards are not as prevalent, are the ones that the packers can abuse every week and buy their cattle cheaper and make them feed them longer and make them less efficient. That puts them out of business. That to let these guys with the special deals get bigger. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy for the packer. It's worked really well.
I think I'm going to echo you a little bit. I don't know that I hold those guys responsible even. I think they did what they needed to do and what they had to do. One of the things that we all got to realize is you have to play the cards that you actually get dealt. You can't just make up the game as you're going along. One thing that I always do, and part of this is my dad used to feed cattle for a guy. He was at a Yellville, Arkansas, and he was big in turkeys. And, a lot of this cattle industry, we're really fortunate because we're not the first ones that they've done this to. And it worked last time, and so they didn't throw away their playbook. They're doing the exact same thing that they did in hogs. They're doing what they did in poultry. They're doing what they did in dairy. And I would caution those guys that have these good deals, what happened in the turkeys. He built 6 barns. He had a contract. He was going to make, his cost of production plus a little bit on top. It looked good to his banker. It looked good to him. It looked good to his operation. Fast forward 10 years, they come back to him and say, we're not dealing with guys that have 6 barns anymore. We're only dealing with guys that have 20 barns. And each barn's going to cost you $2 million. That's what we saw. That's what happened in hogs. There was the guys in the first round that dropped out of hogs because they only had 100 sows. And then they came for the guys that had 1,000 sows. And before you knew it, we have barely any independent producers anymore. And the exact same thing will happen in the cattle industry. I tell guys, if you want to listen or you don't want to listen, if you've got 500 head of mama cows, or you've got a 40 or 50,000 head feed yard, you can sit out this round. They'll come for you next round. But if you're not that guy, if you're less than that, you better come in because they're going to put you out of business.
Yeah, and the consumer needs to get on board here, and that's even harder. It's hard enough to get the producers to get on board and stand out, but the consumer needs to come on board. If you think retail beef prices and the meat counter's high now, wait till five people are feeding the cattle and 4 are processing them. They'll be able to charge whatever they want. The consumer is getting screwed right now just as bad as the producer is. There's plenty of money at the retail sector to trickle down and everybody to stay in business and have their equitable share. And I don't want that to sound like socialism, but I just want the rules to be the same, everybody to play the same game, and the laws we've had for 100 years be enforced, and then let the best man win. We wouldn't be in this shape, and there'd be a future here, and our children can come back and do it if the rules were the same for everybody.
Steve, it scares me a little bit right now. The last couple of weeks we've seen some little bit better fat cattle trade. We're seeing a little bit better feeder market. And I keep hearing these guys say that, it's a cycle and we're just now finally about to make some money. And it just scares me to death that guys are that bad at math. And I've got an old math teacher that she'd be terrified, but if you're paying what I'm paying, and I'm talking here now, I'm in this tri-state area, alfalfa's $200 a ton if you can find it. Junk hay's $130, corn's $580. They tell me that the nation has got 6.2% inflation. If we've got prices that are sort of better than what they've been, at the end of the year, when you do up your finances, when you do up your budget, you're going to be short. And I don't see some of these trends changing anytime soon. You know, they tell me that you work for a month of your life to pay your property taxes. But I'm sitting here in Nebraska, so I guess it's 4 months here in Nebraska. And if we don't get some of these things changed, the only way for people to be able to survive, for them to be able to support their families and their communities, is we have got to get that money, that retail dollar, the percentage that we get, back to producers. Recently I saw data, you know, it's on the internet, so it must have been true, but they said we've lost 37% of the retail dollar. You know, that's for every dollar bill that's put out for beef is not getting back to the producer. That money's being stolen. It's being taken by the retailer, it's been taken by the processor, and I don't understand why we don't become outraged, why we don't scream about that. You know, if somebody pulled into my place and loaded up 33% of my cattle, I'd go after him. We've got 4 packers, and I think maybe we're getting close to everyone in the entire country knows that 4 packers control 85% of all processing,
Monopoly.
2 of which happen to be foreign owned. One thing that COVID was a blessing is it showed us that those kind of supply chains are very fragile. They're also very scary. When we get foreign control of our processing, when we're importing our beef, what that does is that suppresses our domestic production. You suppress your domestic production for so long, it becomes a national security issue. And when we're talking about food, that's scary. People have got to get involved in these arguments, these conversations, these discussions. We've got to take back the power.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Adam. And again, I'll go back to the producer does not realize how much power they have. If they will stand up for themselves at the legislative level, at the retail level where they go to buy everything retail and then sell their product wholesale. But if they'll hold everybody accountable, people will start having to work for them. And the whole system needs to start working for the people out here that keep these communities alive. And I hope that starts to happen.
Steve, I'm a little afraid these people let us just sit on this couch all day long and talk back and forth. I don't know about you, but I could probably use a little break. That'd be all right.
Sounds good.